Welcome to the Thriving on Purpose podcast, where we teach Christian entrepreneurs how to build a strong foundation of faith, growth, and skill to lead and thrive on purpose in life and business. And now, here are your hosts, certified coaches Elisabeth and Sebastien Richard.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Thriving on Purpose podcast. We're so glad that you take your time to listen to our podcast. This week, we have a really good episode for you guys. It's called The 6 Stepping Stones to Kingdom Significance. So you're going to want to stick around to listen to this because it's really, really going to be impactful and it's really going to help you guys out. So for those of you that didn't hear our podcast last week, I talked about a new Facebook group that we started. It's a free Facebook group where we will be giving lots of great content for Christian entrepreneurs with children. So we're going to give you faith trainings. So everything pertaining obviously to faith, leadership in the home, in business, and we're obviously going to talk about kingdom because that's what we're the most passionate about. So we're going to be doing all kinds of things in those groups. We're going to be talking about different things that have to do with leadership. Everybody that listens to this podcast are Christian entrepreneurs, and they're in all kinds of different niches. But these trainings that we're going to give you guys are really good because they can apply to any of those niches that you're in. It's really personal growth, spiritual growth, and we think that you guys will really benefit from it. So I'll post a link to the bottom of this podcast episode on the website thrivingonpurposepodcast.com. So this is episode 41, so you can look on the bottom and I'll have a link to our Facebook group. So please go in there and introduce yourself into the group. We love to know who's been listening to us, and we really want to connect with our listeners.
Absolutely.
So 6 stepping stones to kingdom significance. So Sebastien, why don't you talk to them before we dive into this, a bit about your journey when you started your business?
Yeah, well, when I started as a Christian entrepreneur, Liz, it was maybe 5 years back. As you remember, I had contagious enthusiasm, right? You remember that?
Right.
I was on fire. I was super motivated. I took all kinds of risks. You kind of had to hold me back sometimes. Failure was not an option. I knew I was going to change the world. I just knew it, okay? So it was only a matter of time in my mind before I changed the whole world. And this was all good for a while, right, Liz?
Yeah, for a while.
So eventually when my, I guess you could call it naive enthusiasm waned, I began realizing that this climb to, success and significance would be tougher than I first imagined. And moving up from survival to significance is arduous, to say the least. It's not done overnight, and it will require everything, and I mean everything, that is in you, okay? There are 6 stages that believers who start with nothing, because some of us start with nothing, right? Oh yeah, we have Jesus. Ever heard the saying that says, the man who has everything but does not have Jesus has nothing. But the man who has Jesus and has nothing has everything. Well, I had Jesus. So technically I had everything, but I also had nothing. So those of us who start with nothing and who want to build a life that matters, a life of significance, it can be really, really tough, okay? So there's 6 stages to get to a life of kingdom significance, which is the title of this podcast. And we're going to look at these 6 stages.
So unlike the game of Monopoly, where everybody starts with $1,500, not all of us start with the same advantages or opportunities in life, right? So some of us begin below the bottom rung, while others are blessed with a great beginning. such as having wealthy parents who may provide them with the tools to, at the very least, skip the first step, which is survival.
And that's the first step, survival. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. That starting point for many in the world is survival. And it was our starting point, my starting point a few years back. And a great percentage of the population, as you guys probably already know, are living paycheck to paycheck. And that percentage is actually 78% of Americans, to be exact. So although survival is the starting point, this, keep in mind, this is where most people remain for most of their lives. Now, we can ask the question, why? Well, because most people in survival mode have just accepted their fate. They've accepted that this basically is life. They have, unofficially maybe, but they kind of have given up, you know. They have accepted their lives instead of leading their lives.
Right.
It is what it is, right? You hear that all the time. It is what it is. We hear that as a motto. Others have said, life sucks and then you die. Those are people who have accepted their lives, okay? And very few use the survival stage as a stepping stone. That's because the survival stage is like standing at the foot of a mountain before you climb, okay? So you look at the top of that high mountain and you think, this is too hard. I'll never make it. So as a result, most people in survival mode pitch their tent at the foot of the mountain and they never even attempt the climb. They get discouraged before they even attempt anything because it just seems like such a steep climb.
Yeah, and I just want to add to this. I've seen this many times. You know, even when we are, like, people know that we're entrepreneurs and we'll share, you know, things that we're doing, we're excited about doing. And, you know, some people even look at us like, oh, that's great. They still have dreams.
They're so naive. They're so cute.
And they're like, oh, I don't. You know, like I've had people, you know, tell me, wow, that's really awesome. Like, I don't have any dreams like that. And, you know, they just feel like they're stuck in a life of routine. And then when you kind of tell them, well, why don't you consider, I don't know, taking a course or doing something different with your life or thinking about what you'd be passionate about? And they're like, too much work, or I don't want to go back and study, or, you know, they'd rather live miserably for years and years and years till their pension plan than say, you know what's 5 years of my time or a year or two, you know, to study a certain thing I actually want to do.
Exactly.
It's like people have just given up, you know, and
Exactly.
and we're talking about young people, and it's sad.
That was me. You just described me before I started. It was my sister. It was my sister after, and I have to add this, after my wife had told me the exact same thing for years in a row. Mm-hmm. Somehow, when it's the closest person to you, sometimes you just become deaf to them, and that's wrong, right? When we're married, we should listen to our spouse. But for some reason,
it would have saved you time.
It would have saved me a lot of time. But for some reason, my sister came over one summer, and because we lived kind of far apart, and anyway, she came for a week at our place, and she tried talking to me because she saw I was depressed, I wasn't doing well, and she said, you still have a good 25 years to do at your day job, and you don't like it. Why do you put up with it? And, you know, think about it, she said. It's only going to be a couple of years if you want to study something out of that 25, and then for the other 23 years, you might actually be doing something you like. And that stuck with me. And that was the little kickstart I needed. And after that, I decided I would return to school, and then that's when everything started moving forward. I just started gaining forward momentum, just moving forward with a dream or something you're hanging on to that's different. For me, gave me hope, and it kept me going. Just like Zig Ziglar once said, he said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And I think for those in the survival stage, at the survival level, That's the thing you have to tell yourself. You're not going to be great when you start. It might not be perfect. Like they say in coaching, it's going to be imperfect action. But imperfect action is so much better than nothing at all. So that's what you got to tell yourself. Whatever you decide to do when you're in the survival stage, anything you decide, put your mind on to make a transition is going to be better than nothing at all.
Exactly. That's really good advice. So that brings us to number 2. So the second stepping stone is stability.
Stability. So for those among us who are blessed with a good beginning, we get to skip the survival part. So for those of you who were born with, maybe parents who had some money, who got some good schooling under their belt, who actually found what they wanted to do early on. It's not all of us, but some of us find that early on. You get to skip the survival part, which really sucks, by the way. So that's good, and you might actually skip to become in that level, which is stability, okay? So at this stage, people have passed the struggle of survival. So they stopped having to, like they say, having too much month at the end of their money, and they're faring okay in a stage where their income is adequate for all their expenses, family vacation, and even some money aside to brace for potential emergencies. They are mostly debt-free, and they want to keep it that way in a very delicate balance between income and expenses. While not super comfortable, many people choose to pitch their tent right there in the stability stage. They reason that this is as good as it gets. They don't dare to take unnecessary risks because, in their mind, it might jeopardize their semi-precarious situation. They count their blessings, and few among the people in the stability stage try to grow further. Okay? When people find themselves in the stability stage, they're like, well, we're in a good place right now. We have money for vacation. We have a little money that we can set aside. It's not great, but we're not broke. We're just over broke, right? The danger of the stability stage was well summed up by an economist named Hyman Minsky. He said this. He said, stability leads to instability. The more stable things become, the more unstable they will be when the crisis hits.
That's very true.
That is not only very true, but it's also a very scary prospect for those in the stability stage. Because, and I don't want to be someone who brings negative thinking here, but there's always emergency in life, right? There's always a car that breaks down, a kid that needs braces, something, a roof that leaks. I mean, there's always something that could shake that stability.
Right.
Expenses, right? So the stability stage might be stable or appear to be stable, but in fact, it's very, very fragile. So it's not the best place to be. And unfortunately, many of us have parents who encourage us to aim for that. They're going to tell us to go to school to get a good job and to live a stable life, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what we're taught, to have at least that, okay? Our parents and our families, depending where you grew up, and of course, depending who your family members are, you might have been raised by millionaires. They won't say that. But if you're raised by people like my folks and Elisabeth's folks, that's what it was for us. We were encouraged to go at least to that stage so that at least we could make it, Which brings us to stage number 3, security. For many, the security stage is often mistaken for the success stage. The security stage is very appealing. It's one of those in-between stages. The security stage will often equate with the nice house, the nice cars, plural, the nice trips, eating out in nice restaurants, nice money in the bank. It's a nice stage to be in. Everything's nice in the security stage. Financially speaking, it is very secure. That's where it gets its name, the security stage. It provides more than its share of good times. It is often the stage where many professionals settle. They pitch their tents there, and it's quite understandable why they do that. Security, for the most part, is a stage of financial success. Many find some fulfillment there, but not all. You see, the potential problem with the security stage are usually lack of time freedom and unfulfillment. Those are the two main problems with the security stage. So the people who find themselves, the professionals, the people who have a good income, a really good paying job, a high position, oftentimes they find themselves with a lack of time freedom, and they oftentimes feel like something's missing. Okay? And I'm going to explain this. Many at this stage have traded in long hours of study and very hard work for security. Again, the name of the stage, right? While there's nothing inherently wrong, there's nothing wrong with this, it may leave some of its members in want of what ifs. There's a French song that Tom Jones has reprised, which is called Le Blues du Businessman. And Tom Jones called it, I Would Love to Change the World. And that song always sends, in the French version, I have to admit, always sends shivers down my spine whenever I listen to it, because I think it is so deep. It expresses the plight of many who find themselves in the security stage. It tells the story of a businessman who, at the beginning of the song, is telling the people just how successful he is. And as the song goes by, he's starting to tell of his wondering of what might have been if he had been something different. And as you go through that song, especially the French version, I'm gonna play it for you guys, the English version by Tom Jones. But as you go through the song, you'll get it. You get to see that this very, very successful person is deep down very, very unfulfilled. So here's a clip of Le Blues du Businessman, or in the English version of Tom Jones, which is what you're going to hear now, is called I Would Love to Change the World. Listen to that song.
I've been on course since 17. It's who you know and where you've been. Until it's you they want to know. I've learned the rule, there are no rules, except the gentlemen are fools. I order principles to go. There is no secret to success, as long as others want it less. It is not substance, it is style. There is no deal that can't be done. Retaliation can be fun. I never walk that extra mile. I have acquired the winner's touch of seeming happy with so much. I can be honest if required. I have succeeded, and that's all. But then as far as I recall, that's really all that I desired. Oh, I would love to change the world. Its many failings, one by one. To be the artist, poet, priest, who feels the battle can be won. And I would love to fall in love change the world, to feel my moments just begun, to see the march, to play for keys, to break the mold, to jump the gun, as no one else has ever done. And I would love to fall in love and give you all of me and more. I long to say that I believe in words I've never used before, in words no longer used before. Oh, I would love to change the world, to break away, set rolling free the darkest secrets of my soul. At least the world's not changing me. Oh, I would love to change the world. I would love to change the world. I would love to change the world. Love to change the world.
So here is the secret plight of some who find themselves in the security stage. Some of them are just unfulfilled. And what do I mean by that? Well, they have money, but no purpose. They have many things, but they wonder if they themselves matter. They have possessions, but no real joy. They are often surrounded by people, but they lack the time for relationships. Alas, they have arrived financially only. Like T.D. Jakes once said, and he said it and it was very, very good. He said, "You can be successfully wrong." And that, for many, is the plight in the security stage.
And I've observed through the years a lot of people that have become secure, like in this stage that they have the money coming in, and you would think when you look at them and everything that they have, you would think, wow, they've got it made. They must be the happiest people on earth. And when you sit down and you chit chat with them and go deeper, you realize that a lot of them just went through the motions of life.
Exactly.
And some doors open in a certain area, or they were just really good at something and just ran with it because it was an easier way for them to make money, but it wasn't necessarily their purpose. It wasn't necessarily what God put them on this earth to do. So these people attain a level of success and look around themselves and realize, hey, it's really cool. Like, I've got all these things, I should be happy. And next thing you know, like, a lot of these people are doing things they shouldn't to kind of feel alive, right? And we know what that means. Like, that's when they'll dive into sinful things because they just, want to feel something. And it's sad to say, because a person like that, you would think, could use their money and do something significant, but it's just not the way it works. So I want you guys to see these stages, to understand them, and probably people that I've just mentioned. You see some maybe aunts and uncles that you have that are in this stage, and you know what I'm talking about. There's a void there. So this is why
there's a lot of baby boomers in that stage. There's a lot of them, and we were raised. I mean, our generation was raised by baby boomers, and they thought like that.
Yeah, and a lot of them say, and I've had many conversations with them. It's like, well, if money was no object, what would you have done? What would you like to do with your life? And a lot of them would know exactly what they would have done, and it's something completely different than what they've done all their lives, right? So it's really important that you guys follow us till the end of the podcast, because we're going to get to some kingdom stuff, and I really want you to understand these phases so that you understand what we're striving for as kingdom entrepreneurs. Yeah. So that you're not stuck in one of these stages. The beginning stages.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing you want to be is stuck. Everybody grows. Someone I was listening to recently said, you know what? Everyone is stuck. You have millionaires that are stuck on the millionaire level. They can't go higher. Not that they should necessarily, really, but everybody's stuck somewhere. We all have a place where we need to get unstuck. Some are stuck at the 50,000 mark. Some are stuck at the 200,000 mark, and some are stuck at the $1 million mark. And they wish they could go higher. They just don't know how. So that's when coaching and stuff like that becomes very necessary. So we're all stuck in a stage, and that's perfectly normal. That's part of human nature, because growth demands effort, knowledge, know-how. There's so many things involved. Time. So yeah. That's very interesting.
So that brings us to number 4, which is success.
Yes, the success stage, which is a stage where everybody wishes they would find themselves at. Everybody wants to be successful, right? In an article by the Wealth Research Group, they stated that 98% of the people die without ever achieving their dream. So in the context of this podcast, that would mean that they die in the first 3 stages of either survival, stability, or security. That's 98%, folks. 98% who die without ever having achieved true success or a dream of theirs. I believe that success is, in part at least, achieving one of your dreams, at least that. I know that I have spoken much about the finances from one stage to the next because, hey, they matter, right? They're relevant to success. Nevertheless, money is not the end-all and be-all of success. In my little Kindle book, Thrive on Purpose, 8 Stepping Stones to a Successful and Fulfilled Life, I quote Jim Rohn, the late American business philosopher. He gave what I believe to be the best definition of success that I have ever read. And here it is. I'm going to read it to you. That's from Jim Rohn. If a guy says, hey, I'm soon cashing it in and I'm heading for the mountains. I'm going to live in a little cabin, live off the land, and feed the squirrels. If he goes and does that, guess what? He's a smashing success. Why? Well, he's doing what he designed to do and pulled it off. You can't say, no, that's not successful. That is the epitome of success. giving a design to your life and pulling it off to make progress in the direction that satisfies you. That was Jim Rohn's definition of success. I love it. I think it's so true. And so it goes that only 2% of people pull off giving a design to their life to make progress in the direction that satisfies them. Only 2% among people actually succeed at that. And the reasons for this are many, but I think we can really boil it to just 2 reasons. Liz, would you tell our folks listening what the 2 reasons are?
So some either become satisfied prior to attaining real success, as we said earlier, stability and security, or they never start to begin with. So they stay in the survival stage. In other words, many just choose to pitch their tent at the prior 3 levels that we mentioned earlier. The rest quit on their dreams after too many failures. Okay, so that's the second reason people quit. The price tag of success can be quite high. Not everybody is willing to pay it until the very end, and sometimes the price just becomes too high and people get discouraged and quit.
Absolutely. Sadly, but that's just the way it is, right? The price tag on your dreams can be quite high, and there's always a limit. Everybody has their limit as to how much they're willing to pay for it. But that said, for those who persist and never give up, the sweetness of being successful is a crown to be cherished and proud of, while never to be taken for granted. If that is you, if you have made it to that stage of success, congratulations. Whether you are feeding squirrels in the mountains or running a multi-million-dollar business, if you have attained the success you were aiming for with all of your heart, soul, and mind, you are part of a select group of only 2% of the population. I know I've repeated that many times, but it really struck me.
Absolutely. It is really great if you can get to that 2%, be part of that 2% that are successful, and it's extremely fulfilling. Yet, I have to mention that there are still people in this stage that are successful. They're happy that they've attained a high measure of success, but they also have a sense of unfulfillment, of a part that's missing that we're going to find in the next step, which brings us to significance. So a lot of successful men look around themselves and say, wow, I'm a billionaire, I'm a millionaire, I should be happy. Yeah, a lot of women too. And, I should be happy, I've got everything I want. And yet, sometimes the journey to success, a lot of things were trampled over. Some of them are divorced. Some of them didn't make it to, like they had that business success, but the success in family life was not there. So it's kind of touchy, like it's a level that you want to get to, but you want to get to God's way.
But you want to get through it too. You don't want to just pitch your tent there. Again.
Exactly. Because you want to get to the other last 2 phases, which are the best.
Yes, absolutely. And so you mentioned significance, which comes in at number 5.
Right.
The most significant man who ever lived, and that's our Lord Jesus Christ, said this in Mark chapter 9, verses 33 to 35. Liz, would you read the Bible passage there?
After they arrived at Capernaum and settled in a house, Jesus asked his disciples, "What were you discussing out on the road?" But they didn't answer, because they had been arguing about which of them was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12 disciples over to him, and said, "Whoever wants to be first must take last place and be the servant of everyone else."
Wow, what a great passage.
Yeah, I said that to Jason, and he didn't believe me. when you teach servant leadership to a kid.
Oh boy, that's a tough lesson. That is a lesson that takes a lifetime to learn. Really.
And yeah, in their mind, they're like, well, it's Jesus. Like, why? You know, they're used to seeing superheroes, you know, and stuff. So they're thinking, well,
he has all this power.
Why would he be serving other people? So,
but I love the context. What you just read. He's asking them, so guys, what were you discussing on the road? But they didn't answer, it says, because they had been arguing. They were arguing who among them was the greatest. It's like kids sometimes. Like,
that's funny.
So you ask your kids, so guys, what were you talking about earlier? And your kids know they weren't talking about something like really good. So they're just going to keep silent, like nothing. So then it says, so he sat down and called the 12 to him, just like a parent would do with his kids. Huh?
Well, just like today.
Hey, kids, come over here. I want to talk to you.
That's exactly what happened today. Marissa and Jason were arguing who was the best.
It's true. We had that just today, strangely enough.
And
how ironic.
And my husband had to sit and explain to them that they both had...
I had to tell them that I was the best. And case closed. I mean, stop arguing. It's me. Really, that's good parenting. Good parenting 101, right?
So we had to explain to them that they had strengths and weaknesses, and that they both didn't have the same strengths and weaknesses.
It's true. I had
and
to
that
do
they were both in life going to excel. Imagine they're not. He's 9 and she's 6, right? So they have a lot of time to excel in certain things. But we can see, you know, by seeing the personalities and seeing the strengths already at a young age, that they're obviously going to develop very different skills and different strengths, and also have different weaknesses. So it's actually funny, but I can just imagine the disciples doing this in front of Jesus.
But there's also that stupid song there, you think you're better than me?
Yeah, they started that.
That. Oh my goodness. Anyway, there's so much garbage out there.
Yes.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, so exactly. So we have to, be significant. And Christ asks us to be a servant of everyone else.
Exactly.
And that's part of significance.
And that is a big part of significance, because the basis or the building block of significance is the ability to put others before yourself. In a great article for Success Magazine, John Maxwell listed the 5 main differences between success and significance. And he encouraged the readers to pursue significance. Why? Because in doing so, you will inevitably cross paths with and enjoy success. So if you aim for significance, if significance is your ultimate aim in life, as you aim for that and you go towards that, you're going to go through success. It's going to be a stage you're going to go through.
Exactly.
Because you cannot reach significance unless you passed success. But here are the 5 differences he noted between success and significance. I think it's really good. Number 1, motives. With success, my motives may be selfish. With significance, my motives cannot be selfish. Influence. With success, my influence is limited. With significance, my influence is unlimited. Time. Success can last a lifetime. Significance can last several lifetimes. Focus. Success asks, how can I add value to myself? Significance asks, how can I add value to others? Reward. If I pursue success, my joy is in the result of my success. If I pursue significance, my joy is the result of other people's success.
Right.
That was really, really good. Very insightful, as always, with John Maxwell. You know, those who left their mark on history as people we love and admire have done so because they pursued significance. They wanted to help people, not just themselves. They gave of themselves no matter the cost. In many instances, they poured out their own lives in sacrifice to others. Some became rich, others didn't, but all of them were fulfilled in their calling. All of them added value in one form or another to many many people and impacted their lives at a deeper level. Significance always leaves a legacy. Kingdom significance leaves an untouchable and eternal legacy. Now there's the difference. We're going to move towards something even higher than mere significance. And I don't want to say mere significance, because if you in life attain the level of significance, it's a significant thing.
Exactly.
It's really great.
It's a great achievement.
It's a great achievement, and it's wonderful. You're going to leave your mark on humanity, and that's fantastic.
Right.
But there's even higher than significance, and that is kingdom significance. So, basically, significance is where the legacy of the world stops. But as kingdom entrepreneurs, we are called to go even farther, or to use our vernacular here at Thriving on Purpose, to climb higher. We are called to climb higher than significance. And I know that seems like, how the heck do you want me to do that? With God, my friends, nothing is impossible. Always remember that. So let's talk about that sixth and final stepping stone. Kingdom significance. After all, our podcast is aimed at you guys, kingdom entrepreneurs. We have a great God, and we are called to a great purpose and a great assignment. We are called, all of us, to kingdom significance. Don't forget, we are ambassadors for Christ. Right away, we've been given that position, that important position. And John Maxwell once said that, and he's right. The position doesn't make the leader, but the leader makes the position. So this is where you need to step up. Say, okay, I'm an ambassador for Christ. What am I going to do with that? That's the position that's been bestowed upon you. Well, you're called to kingdom significance. And as kingdom entrepreneurs, significance is threefold. And we're going to look at that. Number one, kingdom significance blesses others significantly. So we saw how significance adds value to others, right? Well, kingdom significance blesses others. It's even more than just adding value or helping people.
Right.
It's blessing people. And you cannot bless people unless you are walking with God. You can help people, you can influence people, you can encourage people, but you cannot bless them unless God is with you.
Exactly. And it's the way you're blessing them is also showing love. So it goes together. You're showing God's love through the way you're blessing these people.
Amen. Number two, kingdom significance expands God's kingdom influence on earth. Now, that is a key point here. I mentioned that we're ambassadors for Christ. Our job is to take back territory from the enemy. We are to expand the kingdom of heaven's influence in the earth realm. So we are to advance and take back territory and expand that influence in the earth realm. So that is kingdom significance, okay? Mere significance will, achieve all kinds of great things. But it will not take back, it will not expand God's kingdom in the earth realm. That's the one thing it cannot do.
Exactly.
Okay? And number three, and this, my wife came up with this today. It blew my mind because we always brainstorm before we do these teachings, okay, these podcasts. And sometimes my teachings are incomplete. And I pitched them to Elisabeth, and I'm like, I came up with this. What do you think? And oftentimes I can feel it. I feel something's missing. And oftentimes she's going to come to the rescue when we put our minds together. And she came up with this. And it blew my mind. Number three, the devil can't use it in any way. Okay. Kingdom significance cannot be used or twisted by the devil for his use. Now that is extremely powerful, and I have some good examples here. And I'm going to name names. I'm sorry. I got to name names. Lizzie, And I don't want to diss any of these people because I love what they've done in a large part anyway. I mean, I
some.
Well, yeah, I don't love what they've done, but I can admire, I can respect their achievements. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So, for example, Walt Disney. I mean, we're talking about significance. Walt Disney achieved massive influence and a life of significance. We cannot deny it. I don't care where you stand as a Christian. We cannot deny that Walt Disney achieved significance, but he did not achieve kingdom significance, even if he did create a magic kingdom. He did not achieve kingdom significance. Why? Because the devil was able to use what Disney has done. And if you don't believe me, which probably a lot of you might not believe me right now, that's okay. Go on YouTube and just type these two words: Disney occult or Disney satanic. And you're going to see, and I'm not saying that Walt Disney did this or meant it for that. But what I'm saying is what you're going to see when you watch these videos, you're going to see that, oh my goodness, I never saw that, or I never knew that. There's stuff in Disney movies, there are messages there that have been used by the enemy to brainwash our kids. That is unfortunate. It's not something I want to talk about or spend too much time talking about, but it's there. And Walt Disney is one example. Another example is Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is doing a lot of good. A lot of good. But another thing that Oprah Winfrey is doing is that she's spreading a lot of New Age thinking and philosophy in the minds and hearts of women. Mostly women, because men don't really follow Oprah. So has she attained the level of significance? Absolutely. Oprah Winfrey will be talked about probably in 100 years from now. She'll be in our history books in 100 years because she has attained that type of level. But, again, can the devil use what she's been doing? Absolutely. Can he twist it and use it to his advantage? Absolutely. Kingdom's significance cannot be twisted in that way. And what do I mean by kingdom significance? Take the work of Billy Graham, for example. I think he's the most noteworthy, the person that comes to mind in kingdom impact. So many people I've heard have said, and people of importance, people of influence said that I came to Christ through a Billy Graham crusade. Now talk about significance. That is his lasting legacy. Hearts turned to Jesus Christ. I mean, the devil can't use that.
No.
Actually, he hates that. If there's one thing he hates, it's that. So he can attack it. Oh, he can attack it, and he will, and he does. He can even try to vilify it. So many good men have been, I think there was an account, and I think it was Billy Graham. Someone had tried to send a prostitute to his room. And I think, if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, it might be someone else, so don't like quote me on that. But if I'm not mistaken, he ran out of the room or he called, anyway, he got rid of her. He was able to do it in a way that no moral harm came to him in the process. But someone had sent a prostitute to his room to try to get him to fall. So yes, the devil will try to attack it or vilify it or make it unfruitful.
And it doesn't even
matter.
But
he cannot use it.
Yeah, but in this case, I remember the story. It's not even about that actually happening. It was about him being caught with her and taking pictures. It was about more than that. So they wanted to ruin his image. And I think it came from that story when he said he never will sit with a woman if the door is not open, and those rules that he
would never be found alone with a woman unless she's his wife. That was the Billy Graham rule. Mike Pence took it and ran with it now, and he's been criticized for it. It's funny how godliness is criticized in our modern day and age. Huh?
So to get back to this point, this point was really inspired by God when I said it in the kitchen. And
it's often in the kitchen, huh, Liz, that we talk about this good stuff.
Because I knew, like, my heart, I just knew there was a big difference between kingdom significance and significance. And we did a lot of brainstorming, and I just knew that there was more to that. And I really believe that God made me see this clearly. And I could just see the types of businesses. I had a lot of businesses flashing through my mind.
Yeah.
And the devil has used, and we know, like with Walt Disney, and we know of many, many other, that the devil has infiltrated, that have these businesses have existed for many, many years, right? So they have built significance, and because they have built such influence, you know, what happens once you die and who takes over after, well, is not always what the founder had wanted in the first place, but it is what it is, and people took over, and it is now, you know, a tool that the devil will use. But if you build your business in a way where your kingdom significance is so strong, okay, so God is so present. We're not talking about a business where you sprinkle God in, like you kind of mention you're a Christian, put a little quote here and there on your profile. Like that to me is not a kingdom business.
No.
Okay, and I don't want to offend any Christian entrepreneurs, but that's not a kingdom business. So what we're talking about is really working with Christians, or having the level of impact that is noticeable to non-Christians. They have labeled you as a Christ follower that is thriving for God's kingdom.
Yeah.
Like there's no gray zone, and they don't even have a shadow of a doubt. They know you're the Christian kingdom entrepreneur on their profile.
There you go.
In their friends list or whatever. So
they know that God is your CEO.
Exactly. So the type of business that you're aiming for is really to have God as your CEO. And this thing, to get to this level, guys, this is what we have discovered.
You have to be all in.
You have to be all in, and you have to understand your God-given assignment and run with it until God says to you that you're done, okay? So he's going to he's going to enlighten you this assignment. He's going to show you your purpose. And this is a kingdom assignment. This is something when you reach this level, I don't want to say that you have to absolutely, like you can understand your kingdom assignment in another one of these stages that we were at earlier, okay? Yeah. But if you roll with it and you follow God's will and you keep on trusting Him,
you're gonna know that it's not accomplished until you reach kingdom significance. In other words, that's your marching order. You're like, okay, that's my assignment. It was given to me by God. That's my purpose. That's what I'm supposed to do. Well, I'm just gonna do it, and come what may, I'm just going to keep doing it until He tells me to stop.
Exactly. And you might be in the survival stage where God shows you this. And oftentimes that's the case. Yeah. God will take us from where we're the lowest and where we need Him the most, and where we're actually seeking for more. And that's when
we're open to actually receive that assignment. Because we're like, why is my life not working? Why am I struggling so hard? Why is nothing working in my life, or whatever? And so we seek God. That's what happened to me. I'm just telling you my story here. I'm not inventing anything. So we seek God more. And in seeking Him more, He says, okay, he seems ready. I think I can show him more. So He shows you more where He wants you to go. And you follow that. You follow those like the where up to where He lit your path. So you walk all that way there. Oh, it's dark again. Seek God again. Okay, God, I walked to where you showed me. He lights a little bit more of the path. You keep going. That's what it is. I mean, that's what's going to lead you eventually to kingdom significance.
Exactly, which is the ultimate aim. And what you're building, like Sebastien said earlier, it's a business that the devil cannot infiltrate. He does not even want to use it. He wants nothing to do with this.
He might try to destroy it.
This has God all over it.
Yeah, he might try to destroy it. He might try to counter it, to attack it, but He can't use it.
Exactly. There's that. you're taking away, obviously, you're taking away territory from the devil. So you're expanding God's kingdom influence on earth, which is exactly what God wants. And in return, he's going to give you abundant blessings. He's going to bless you 100-fold, as the Bible said.
Amen.
And so this is the highest level of kingdom significance. And not only are you building all of this and having all these wonderful provisions and rewards on earth, but also you will be having these wonderful rewards one day when you die and go to heaven, as opposed to the fifth stage where you stop at just significance and has nothing to do with kingdom significance. Well, depending on if you were a Christian or not, your rewards will probably, maybe not be the same as if you had gone to that extra level of kingdom significance. So,
but to be honest, if you are and we know you are because you're listening to us, you would be bored otherwise. But if you're a believer, we know that even significance might, and I'm saying might, be unfulfilling. Even significance might be unfulfilling unless it is kingdom significance. Because you want to hear those words. You want to hear those words when you get to heaven someday. Well done, good and faithful servant. That is what I want to hear. That is the crown of significance, of kingdom significance. So as we finish this podcast, there's 3 questions that remains for you, dear listener. Number 1, what stage are you at? And there's no wrong answer here, by the way. There's no stage that you shouldn't be there. That's whatever stage you find yourself at. It's good to know where you're at, because if you want to know where you're going, you got to know where you're at. So that's the first question. You need to ask yourself, what stage am I at? Number 2, what are you doing about it? Now that's a profound question, because you might be at the success stage and be very happy and doing nothing about it. So you might have pitched your tent there and say, I ain't moving, I'm happy here. But as a kingdom entrepreneur, if you're at the success stage and you pitched your tent and you don't want to move further, I don't want to be harsh, but shame on you. If you're at the success stage and you don't want to move further, or maybe you didn't know there was another stage after that and then another, and that's okay. If that's the case, we forgive you, not a problem. But if you knew and you decided, no, I ain't moving, what's blocking you? Is it fear? Because sometimes we're afraid, right? Because we're like, well, I'm successful now. If I try to go past that, will I lose it? Sometimes we're scared. And number 3, whatever stage you're at, and so what are you doing about it? And finally, why? So what you're doing about it, at the stage you're at, whatever you're doing about it to try to move farther, what's your why? What's your why? Everybody has a different why, because a why can be very, very vast. For example, I want to glorify God and expand His kingdom. That's huge. And that should be your driving force. But every one of us are specifics, right? We all have a different assignment. So therefore, our more specific or targeted why might be very different.
So the key here, guys, is to, no matter what stage you're at, is to really be aligned with your kingdom assignment.
Amen.
Everybody that's been put on this earth with the different strengths that they have and gifts and talents that God has given them. And there's a lot of spiritual gifts that God has given you for your assignment that you may not even know that you have. All these things need to be revealed to you so that you know where you're going. So you need to pray about it. You need to ask God unceasingly and pray about it so that He reveals to you your kingdom assignment. So that no matter what stage you're at, you can get up and move in the right direction.
Because you know where you're going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To reach kingdom significance.
Amen. Well, that concludes this week's podcast. Liz, anything to add?
No, I think that sums it up. But I would like you guys to join the free Facebook group that we're doing to get more kingdom knowledge. And I'd love to hear your feedback on this podcast. We also did this group because we'd like to have more interaction with our listeners. So like now there's a kind of a call to action to this podcast. If you'd like to give us some of your takeaways when you get in the group on the content that you're listening to, we'd love to hear your feedback and your takeaways as well. So have a great week. Be blessed.
And thrive on.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving on Purpose podcast. Be sure to visit thrivingonpurpose.com to access the show notes and to discover more fantastic content. Until next time, be blessed and may you thrive on purpose.